Hello and good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on your location. I hope you're keeping safe and healthy. Thank you for joining us today in our virtual panel discussion How 2020 Transformed Application Delivery and What the Future Looks Like. While we can all agree that 2020 has been dramatic and quite dramatic as well, we can't deny that it's done a lot of good on the tech front. It has made organizations aware of the advantages of adopting certain technologies and has driven them to modernize their operations. Today, we'll be discussing one such operation that 2020 impacted, which is application delivery. So let me quickly introduce our panel members. We have with us Murli Palanisamy, Alon Nahamani, and Nitish Krishna. And then there's me, your moderator. Murli is the Chief Solutions Officer at AppViewX and a subject matter expert on network and cybersecurity, with actual hands-on experience solving real-world network challenges as a customer. He has held leadership roles at Bank of America, Merrill Lynch, and Citibank before joining AppViewX, where he currently works closely with customers to help them in their automation journey. Alone is the Director of Customer Success at AppViewX, guiding and advising customers to realize their security goals. Alone was a former CISO and has over 15 years of experience in leading and executing security strategies for Fortune 50 and Fortune 100 companies. Nitish is the head of customer success at AppViewX. His team deploys and implements large-scale automation projects for our customers. With over 8 years at AppViewX, he has great insight into problems that customers have and how automation can help solve them. Finally, there's me, the moderator. I am Nisha, the product marketing manager at AppViewX. If you have come across any content on network automation, application delivery, or ADCs from AppViewX, there's a good chance that I wrote it. Just a little housekeeping before we begin. If you have questions in the course of the discussion, please type them in the question box below the talk window and I'll bring them up during the Q&A session at the end. Now, moving on to the questions. So Murli, this one's for you. This year saw several large organizations stepping into the digital space. What do you think spurred this shift? Over to you, Murli.
Yeah, I think one of the key drivers, right? Obviously, the COVID sort of brought us all to a screeching halt. Gone are the days where we used to go to offices or even go to conferences and meet real people, right? We have we have started doing everything virtually. I mean, the last conference that I attended was the RSA back in San Francisco, and somebody just called me from that conference, and it seems like so long ago. It seems like decades ago, right? I mean, it was the start of the year, but then because of that change, a lot of organizations have accelerated. I mean, the remote working and the scarcity of resources working, in office, right, has changed the whole dynamics. When everybody starts working remotely, right? There is a whole approach or change in strategy about the security persona, the devices that are accessed, how application is consumed. If you look at any large applications, right, they might be concentrated from their work offices, but now it is all distributed from their home ISPs, right? So demographic of how the consumer has changed, how they consume the application has changed, how they access and what they do has changed, right? And that has sort of accelerated a digital transformation for a lot of companies. Even those who have never used technology are now forced to use technology, right? The education, for example, is one area where they have never been a heavy technology spenders, right? And you see, and that across the world, it's not only US, right? Across the world, you see every kid right now is learning through an online platform, whether it is a Zoom or WebEx or some form of Google Meeting and all that. So that definitely has accelerated it, and not only that, right? Meaning events, for example, right? What used to be a physical event is now online, and an online event means it requires an experience that you would get of going to an event. So for that, there are new applications which are enabling you that virtual experience for people, and I think that is sort of it's a transformational change, and that is accelerated I mean, we can talk a lot about this transformation because so much has changed within the past 6 to 8 months.
Thank you. Thanks for that, Murli. So, Alon, do you have anything to add to Murli's perspective?
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. I think that I think a lot of organizations were planning kind of this transition into the digital space. I think COVID is kind of what pushed everybody forward and really the gasoline on everybody's fire. But I think that this has been a long time coming, and I'm kind of happy it's here.
All right. Thanks for that, Alon. So, moving on to the next question. So, this year also saw an exodus to the cloud. What do you think brought that on? Murli, this is again for you.
Yeah, I think it's a continuation of what I was talking. Right? I mean, a lot of companies need to accelerate. A lot of enterprises need to accelerate their deployment or accelerate their access. And what is better way than leveraging the cloud for it, right? Which has a low friction, has a faster time to value, and yeah, I mean the key aspect is how can you get things out quickly and get customers to value quickly and provide a higher availability. And when we are looking at that, then the cloud sort of picks up, as a service model and the cloud model, and that sort of also doesn't need as much of heavy lift as you would for an on-prem data center. Now, since with COVID and people working from home and you remotely enabling, deployments and all that, that sort of it adds a challenge, adds a barrier for speeding up your on-prem data centers or on-prem deployments and all that, where uh, either even either there needs to be a physical setup, or even if it's virtual, right? There is a list of dependencies that are there with other teams and other systems and whatnot. So I think the force that sort of pushed people for digital transformation or adapt the transformation technology for all the use cases which they would normally do. That also has forced them to adopt the cloud. Right, Nitish? What do you think? You would have had some
Yeah, Murali. Yeah,
customers.
the other aspect of it is, I think, as the decade has passed, applications have become more and more agnostic to the platforms they run on as well, right? So the application teams now have a choice in where they can host their services, whether it's a private cloud offering or a public cloud offering. Wherever it makes much more sense for them to host their services, they're able to host their services as well. So, that's obviously driving the growth to move towards the cloud, because it's no longer platform dependent and, very specific. So I think that's also driving that change. And I obviously agree with you, Murali. It's a lot to do with agility, right? In the fact that, the businesses are trying to see how the infrastructure can become more invisible to them. So the applications hosted on them can be changed even faster, to meet the requirements of the industry. So, those are the couple of other things that I think, in addition to what Murali said, are definitely driving that exodus to the cloud, Nisha.
Thanks for your thoughts, Nitish. So, coming to the topic of automation, how big of a role does automation play in application delivery, be it on-prem, cloud, multi-cloud, or any other kind of deployment? Alone, your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think that, I mean, I'm a huge proponent for automation in general. I think that any task, you need to do twice should be automated. I think that one of the things that we're seeing with COVID and kind of the initial response the economy had with things having to downsize and everybody kind of putting the brakes on things, I think automation is definitely coming kind of forward and becoming the topic of choice, and understanding the cost savings or the efficiency savings that you get with automation. And, you know, application delivery is one very big way that automation is solving the problem. You know, to echo what Morley and Nitish said on the previous response, you know, with the kind of remote working environment, and with the need that everybody had to spin up all of these remote things, the as a service or the web application um, availability is really what's kind of making this possible. And automation in that space is really what's helping that grow. You know, the ability to scale is being delivered through automation. Nitish, what do you think on that?
Yeah, I'd actually break down application delivery automation into two things. One is the application component in itself, and I think there's been significant improvement if you even just look at our customer base, CI/CD, DevOps. The agility to get changes done on the application side has been, but to deliver that application, the network also needs to be that agile. And I think in the last couple of years, CIOs and CTOs are understanding that importance. That application delivery is not just about getting the application ready. It's also about making sure the infrastructure that supports that application needs to be automated. Infrastructure as a code, all these words are very, very common now because of that, because you need to take the infrastructure and publish it into the application development pipelines as well. So, Nishat, to the question, and just echoing again what Alon said, very, very important, right? Application delivery does not stop at just the application side. There is a network and security component that needs to move along with that. That is very, very critical as well. And more organizations are realizing that, and they're big initiatives, at least as far as we have seen, driving that automation going forward.
Great points, Nitish. Thanks for that. And Alon, this question's for you. So, application traffic has been seeing a steady surge of late due to increased activity, online activity. So, how can enterprise IT reinforce their backend to meet the demand?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because all of these questions kind of build on top of each other. But that's exactly what Nitish was just talking about, and that's exactly it. I mean, with bringing in the automation to the networking team and to the applications team, and kind of having everybody converge together to be able to deliver more, scale up, be able to deliver. I mean, really, automation is our answer here, and it's the only way that we're going to be able to do this and be successful in a short period of time. I mean, gone are the days when you had 10, 20, 30 network engineers in a NOC sitting there hammering away at, iOS and Cisco to scale things up and get, the routing tables updated and be able to spin things up, whether it's, VIPs or so on and so forth. I think those days are gone. That's exactly what we're going to need with automation. That's exactly what we're here to solve and what we're here to deliver. So I think that's really what's going to be able to do that.
Yeah, and to add to that, right? I mean, if you look at how applications were handled, or application traffic was handled before, right? Everything used to sort of bottle into a single entry point in a pod or in a point of presence. Now with the cloud and with the deployment, cloud-based deployment, cloud-native deployments, it is more distributed with having multiple points of entry and routing to different backends and whatnot, right? And you can even spin up a new point of presence on demand as needed with the agile network infrastructure. So I think having that automation which sort of controls it centrally, where you can see how the application traffic is distributed and how you can manage more of a blue-green setup, or how you can send a percentage of traffic to a particular part. All that becomes important, right? Especially to provide a really high availability with 2 nines or 4 nines or even 5 nines, right? All that has to be thought through. All that has to be automated and maintained to handle that.
Right. Thank you for that, Murli. And so, Nitish, could you throw some light on how application delivery automation has impacted the enterprise cost and efficiency? What is your take on that?
Yeah, that's an interesting question, because the way applications are being delivered has changed. right? Even the data center has changed, right? There is no edge anymore. There is no north-south. It's a complete fabric, right? That's where at least enterprises are trying to move to, and web scale companies have already reached there, right? So there's this move from traditional hardware-based, just taking load balancing as an example, hardware-based load balancers have now become software-based load balancers with application teams having their own dedicated instances to be able to manage their application traffic, right? The importance of layer 7 protection through web application firewalls, that's also changed significantly, right? So when there's so much of change where the change is actually driving towards more fabric kind large scale deployments, automation by default becomes mainstay, because it's not going to be possible to manage such large networks, such complicated networks, because it's so dependent on how the application is through the manual processes right now, right? So automation kind of coming into the picture, automation has already come into the picture, and how that's being delivered is with the assumption that it's going to better increase cost and efficiency. Efficiency is for sure, because in modern day applications, SLAs are very, very tight. Most environments are short-lived, right? We have had customers have come and told us these environments only last for 10 minutes, right? Whereas in traditional cases, application delivery services take days to deliver. So how do you map that out? Automation is the answer, and definitely automation is the answer to being able to deliver these services more efficiently, right? And cost is just is a byproduct of that, which means that if you have automation in place and efficiency in place, obviously you're handling cost at scale. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to put as many people or as many resources or computer, whatever it is, to be able to take care of that. So automation definitely is at a place where it's going to be able to improve efficiencies, especially in the world that Murali and Alon pointed out to, that we're moving towards as well. And Alon, I think we're seeing this across our customers as well, right? In terms of how automation has become the mainstay of improving efficiencies and cost.
Yeah, absolutely. We're definitely seeing it at our customers. I actually wanted to bring an example here from my past and really talk for a second. When I was working at WeWork and being able to deliver that, I mean, I think WeWork is famously known for the speed at which we scaled up and the speed at which we delivered, whether it was physical or on the digital side. A lot of that can't be delivered without automation, without the ability to click a button and have it run everything that we need to automate, or have it monitor on its own and respond accordingly. And I think that's really the key there, because could we have done it with people? Absolutely. Would we have a whole building full of engineers just sitting there to do it? At some point it becomes unfeasible to do it with human people and to do it in automation. And I think that's really what we need to look at is the cost of doing it in automation, and not necessarily downsizing our force, but actually freeing our engineers up to be able to use their brains and do something that's so much more creative and so much more important, and kind of take away these mundane tasks that we're solving through automation.
Yeah, and I think that's DevOps, right? It's beautiful how that word was coined, with Dev and Ops coming together, is where that transformation is actually happening, where the development pipelines are getting integrated in operation pipelines, and there's this team that's putting it together. And I think Nisha, to your initial question, I think that's the vision that a lot of companies have, and we're seeing them drive through that as well.
Right. Thank you, Nitish and Alon, for that really insightful answer. So, moving on to the people side of the transformation. So, how are IT leaders, that is CIOs, CTOs, etc., responding to this forced modernization of application delivery? Like, how has the response been? Has it been enthusiastic, lukewarm? How's it? Murali, this is for you.
Yeah, I think there was a Gartner article which talks about how long the board discusses about security. The board discusses about the transformation, right? I think this is in every C-level's agenda, or every board agenda that is happening right now, because this situation is going to extend for a while, right? When it's not like tomorrow, I mean, there is a vaccine tomorrow and everybody comes to work and everything falls back to the normal, the way it used to be. Now, because it is a long drawn situation and it is going to continue for a while, I think every leader is looking at how this is changing and how they have to cope up with this particular um, approach, right? And how they have to modernize and I mean more importantly, how to handle this disruptional change for their business, right? And I think there is a really good support uh, from the leadership perspective. And there has been cases, some of the customers where there weren't budgets for a couple of projects and all that. Suddenly, budgets come from nowhere, and then they are like being accelerated through, right? And then they are being asked to get things done, especially to enable the business to grow. The thing is, when this whole thing started in March, right? There was a huge ambiguity on how this is going to affect the markets, especially the tech markets, right? Meaning whether the spending is going to decrease due to the uncertainties and all that. But then as we moved ahead, right, it sort of accelerated the transformation. And pretty much all the leaders have come to realize that this is not a short-term investment that they are doing. Right? This is a transformational investment that is going to be there, for a long time, and also it's going to transform how the business is conducted, how it is handled as well. Right, Nitish?
Definitely. I also think that the transformation is happening a little too fast for everyone's liking, Misha, to your question, right? I think the transformation is going super fast on one side, and the actual implementation is not keeping up with that. And I think that's what worries a lot of CTOs and CIOs that at least we have been speaking to is, how do we represent automation first? And automation it's not just a tool or a technology thing. It's an overall process revamp. So it's a massive project. It's a multi-year project that's in place, but the transformation is happening, right? I mean, whether it's COVID-driven or just piggy banking and what's been happening over the last 5 years generally in the industry, I think that transformation is just accelerating itself out. So this, we've been in a couple of meetings over the last 6 months, more than a couple of meetings actually, in the last 6 months, where people have come and told us, "Wow, we didn't know we were that slow." Right? It just woke some people up to basically say, wow, we now know, because now with this whole digitally transformed remote working, remote workforce, we didn't know that we weren't able to deliver services as fast as even our own employees wanted, right? For them to access our own networks, we weren't ready at that scale, let alone in delivering these services from a B2C standpoint, right? So I think definitely a little bit faster than what CTOs and CIOs would like. So, they're definitely automation first mandate, at least going into 2021, is what we're hearing quite a bit about, Disha. Alon, you should have a lot of visibility into this. You talk to a lot of customers on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, actually, I'm going to share something else. I actually spoke to a friend of mine this morning who used to be a partner that I bought a lot from back when I was on the customer side. He told me he's having the best year he's had in probably a decade. I think that says a lot about kind of where we're going and what we're doing. Without naming names or anything, he is telling me that the forced modernization and what's going on with COVID. A lot of CIOs and CTOs are using this as an excuse to kind of drive things forward. You know what? Our employees are displaced already. Things are half down as it is. People can't access things. Let's use this as an opportunity. Let's not necessarily make available what our old way of doing things. Let's move the project, Nitish, like you said, the project that was going to take 2-3 years in the pipeline, and we were going to do it. Let's do it now, and let's deliver it in a insane timeline and get it done and get everybody up and running on the new system with the way it is. I mean, we saw back, for the New Yorkers that are here on the call. I mean, I think we saw this a little bit in Sandy, where I don't know about others, but we were displaced from our office for about 3 or 4 months, down on Water and Wall, working out of the data center in New Jersey. I mean, we rolled out systems that we had planned in the next 2 or 3 years in weeks. I mean, similarly, I think we're seeing that, but now instead of just kind of the New Yorkers among us, we're seeing this globally. So I think that's really it's really interesting to see and hear.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
I
you
think
for
that
the
also just,
information.
yeah, I was just going to say, I think, Alon, that just proves it can be done. It just needs the right kind of drive to do it. So, that's what, the last couple of years plus the last 6 months have been about, Misha, is, the coming of reality that it can be done. We just need to be able to get it done. Yeah.
Awesome, awesome points. Thank you for that. So, moving on to probably one of the most crucial questions in the session, since this is about security. So, with transactions happening over the open internet, cyber attacks have shot up by an alarming 238% this year. Not surprisingly, the banking, financial services, and insurance industries once again top the victim list. So, what can organizations do to minimize exposure and ensure availability in the event of such attacks? Alone, I'd like you to adapt this question first.
Now, I'm going to start by saying that I'm very happy that I'm not a CISO at a bank anymore, because dealing with that right now would be a headache. It's a very good question. I think when we talk for a second about security and what CISOs specifically are looking at, I think SOAR used to be a little bit of a buzzword and a little bit of almost a nasty word that got thrown out. I think with the move to the cloud, with automation being where it is, I think the conjunction of a SOAR that doesn't just kind of respond to the security issue, but also talks to the application automation in order to move the services. So let's say you have a cloud set up in one region and it's under attack. Now that everything's automated, now that you can do that, the system can actually recognize that and spin up a whole nother instance over here so that you keep your availability. You're still delivering to your customers while you're dealing with the attack here. And I think that that's really what's going to end up happening. In addition to the SOAR just responding, the application delivery automation is going to be able to spin things up almost in parallel, get the customers over here, fix this, sanitize it, get what's done, and then be able to kind of either load balance afterwards or migrate back or so on and so forth. And I think that that's really kind of where we're going. I think we're going to see a lot of that in the coming future. I think that's kind of the mesh, if you would, of everything kind of working together, talking to each other, and almost resolving the issues automatically. Sorry for those who are in a SOC, but that's what I think is going to end up happening. Morley, what do you think there?
This goes back to the situation in 2008, where post-financial, crisis, there was a huge spike in the, the anonymous attacks that came in. Right? I think whenever there is some major event, there definitely is a huge spike in the cyber activity, right? And yes, it's not surprising to see the banking and financials, the BFSIs, banking, financial, insurance, getting hit, and they, the attackers go after where the money is, right? And they don't want to go, attack a mom and pop shop. I mean, yes, they do, but then that's not their core focus, right? I think, but again, this also, if you look at the acceleration of the transformations, right? There is a lot more focus on security as well. Not only BFSI, but pretty much all the organizations are looking at it under the lens. And you heard about the Zoom, how Zoom started zooming past the usage, right? And then suddenly all the security vulnerabilities started getting reported, because obviously when there is a lot of attention, and it attracts both the good and bad side of the internet, right? I think this digital transformation or this acceleration sort of brings that to the center stage, right? And every organization should be looking at this or rather looking at how to mitigate this. Yeah, like what Alon mentioned, right? SOAR is sort of moving to the center stage. How to secure and orchestrate and automate the whole security side of things, right? And the mitigation, right? The DDoS and the DDoS mitigation side of things and all that. And not only that, the internal security posture, right? See, earlier there was a physical boundary, and folks were, yes, they had training, they had, but how much ever they get trained and whatnot, right? Even if they stick a password on their, I'm not saying they do, but I'm sure there are folks who still do that, right? Meaning, and it would be lying in the office, so it's not easily, even though it's there, it cannot be accessed by an outsider, right? But right now, they are spread out. I've heard people who are booking cabins and working from there, and then a lot of folks in the Bay Area, right, they have completely moved out, and then they're spreading their wings all the way around, finding the right place to go and work. In that case, right, the perimeter completely has disappeared. And imagine whatever the practices they follow or they were following, right? Now it doesn't have any physical boundary, right? So all of those has to be thought through, and all of that, see, whenever there is, a cert or a key or a password or anything gets compromised, right? I mean, obviously, it goes on the dark web, and then it comes back with vengeance, right, as an attack, right? So I guess that's definitely going to be a focus area, and that's definitely going to increase as well.
Thank you, Murli. Nitish, would you like to take a stab at that as well?
Yeah, I think Alon and Murali covered most of the points. The perimeter is disappearing. It's a more a fabric deployment. Everything is remote. So, it's become very critical that there is SOAR in place. There is remediations in place to react fast. And now more than ever, the attacks have become very sophisticated, which is also why a cloud drive is there, because I don't even think traditional data centers are able to handle what is happening in terms of these sophisticated attacks. So they're very specific cloud vendors that are being able to take care of this for them.
Right. Thanks, guys. And all right, so since we also offer solutions, in the application delivery and security space, so how have our customers benefited from application delivery automation? So could you give us some real world examples? Nitish, could you?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think, it all comes down to agility. That's what application delivery is about, right? One specific example is, one of the largest banking and financial companies we work with have almost automated how they do blue-green deployments because of our automated processes, right? They're able to upgrade applications at lightning speed because we're able to allow that transformation of, shutting down a set of servers, quickly upgrading those servers and bringing it back up. It seems like a very simple use case, but when you do that at a scale of 32 data centers, that's a massive effort, right? That's one specific example that I always have at the top of my mind because it genuinely helps, that specific, all our customers, in fact, but this customer as well. So, that's one of the key areas that I've seen, even in terms of identity, right? Murali spoke about it, right? You have this environment, it's very mission critical, but it's only going to be alive for 15 minutes. You still need to secure it. You still need to provide identity to it, right? So that it isn't prone to an attack. So how do we do that? We're able to issue certificates and SSH keys at scale. Secure that environment, secure the identity, secure the transactions for our customers. And when those environments go down, we're able to take the security postures out as well. So providing that ability to do that, these are very, very simple examples, but very critical examples we've seen help our customers in crucial times, in change windows, in times that they need. And even something as simple as load balancing, right? We have seen customers take many, many days to be able to get load balancing services up. But now we're able to provide those load balancing services via automated systems in less than minutes. And that's obviously transforming the agility at which applications can be deployed as well. So very few examples, Nisha, but I think this kind of covers, what we have done for our customers in terms of, bringing that agility that we've been speaking about for the last 30 minutes or so.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for that, Nitish. So the next question. According to the three of you, what are the top four application delivery trends that are likely to stick around long after things get back to normal? Which I hope it will, by the way, pretty soon. And yeah, I'd like Murli to
Yeah.
go first. Okay, please.
Um, why don't you go, Nitish?
Yeah, sure. I think Murli has too many trends, so he's trying to prioritize them. But I think I think we covered some of the trends across the last 30 minutes, right? Cloud is here to stay. The world is, enterprises are going to have to deal with a hybrid cloud. Enterprises are going to have to deal with the fact that there is no security boundary anymore. The security posture has to improve. I definitely think DevOps is accelerating. Companies have understood the importance of time to market, especially in a digital world where when your competition is releasing features that at significantly fast pace, you should be able to do the same thing. I think that's definitely there. And I think what's going to cover this is this very generic word called automation, because automation means so many things to so many people, right? You can take any specific example and say what automation, including in the manufacturing industry where it originated from. But I think automation is going to become a mainstay. I think that, like we discussed about CTOs and CIOs, I think it's going to be automation first strategy, driving DevOps, driving agility, driving cloud scale, etc.
Okay. Alone, Murli, anything to add to Nitish's points?
Yeah, no, I think Nitish is 100%. I think that the ability to automate in order to deliver now instead of waiting and reducing that, change control, overhead, people, whatever you want to call it. I think that that's, the only other trend I think that might stay is going to be the BYOD. I think that, with the lack of laptops and people not being able to even source laptops for their employees, I think having our employees on their own stuff, and that's really just going to have to increase the automation on the delivery side, because now you have so many more people that are connecting, and you have to be able to scale and scale fast.
Okay. So, Alon, while you're on this topic, so what steps should organizations take to sustain the benefits that adopting these technologies has brought about, down the line?
I think that's a good question. I think the ability to understand, like Nitish said, have automation as the number one priority, I think is the big thing. I think understanding that, you're going to see cost savings, or like I said, I don't always like to call it cost savings, because I think it's also the ability to look at it as freeing up your engineers. I think having that mindset of let me use people for their brains instead of the small mundane tasks. I think that's really what's going to be there. I think the prioritization of automation is definitely one of the first steps that need to be there. The other one is documenting what your current process is. I think that's, when I walk in and people don't know what the current process is and how they're doing it, it's very hard to automate something that you don't know. So I think that's the other step that I think is incredibly important there.
Right.
Nitish, what would you add to that?
And I think it comes down to organizations to understand. It comes down to three things: it's people, process, and product. Right? We see a lot of customers focus on one of the three things, or maybe two of the three things, and then look at automation. Let's have the right people, or let's go buy the right product, or let's revamp our processes. But automation is a journey that brings all these three things together, right? And I think that's very, very critical as more and more automation comes in place. It's just not about going out and picking the right product from the market and saying, okay, we have the greatest automation product, we're going to automate everything, or hiring the best team and then saying we have the right people to do this, or going back and revisiting processes because process is the problem. It's all these three things coming together. And I think that's what's going to sustain the development of these practices, right? And making it a long-term mainstay thing in organizations. Otherwise, we've seen a lot of automation projects that kick off really, really fast and die down as fast, because it doesn't take these three things together. It's taking just one of these three things together most of the time.
Right. Murli, your 2 cents, please, on this.
Yeah, I concur with what Nitish said. Right?
I think we lost your audio, Murli.
Oh, I'm not sure what happened there. Sorry, guys.
Yeah, I think we probably can
Yeah.
move on. Murali,
Right. Okay. So yeah, we are now opening for the Q&A session. So if you have any questions, please type them in the question and answer panel below the talk screen. And yeah, we have one already. This is from Harald. So do you see a significant increase for the management of certificates in the SD-WAN environments? So who would like to answer that?
Yeah, as Murali comes back online, I'll probably take a stab at it. Yes, definitely, Arul. I think not just SD-WAN, but any endpoint that has a certificate has become very, very critical, right? Because there are almost everything that we're dealing with today is end-to-end encrypted, right? There is an SSL endpoint or a TLS endpoint to everything. SD-WAN even more critical because that's where a lot of internet-bound traffic is entering. So there's definitely a reason for those environments to be protected. And yes, SD-WAN environments are critical for that. So therefore, there is a lot of certificate management that we do. Certificate automation is, in fact, auto-enrolling certificates in these environments that we're seeing.
Okay. So we have something along the lines of SD-WAN for our next question. So do SD-WAN and IBM have a future? That's the question that we've got. Alon, would you like to answer that?
I'm going to defer to Morley there if he's back.
Yeah, can you hear me?
It's still a little feeble.
A little bit.
Okay.
I think, Murali, the audio may have flipped from your headset to the laptop. Maybe that's
that's true. My headset died, and then I guess it switched to the laptop.
We can hear you. Yeah.
Okay, I guess you can hear it from the laptop.
Yeah, it's a lot better now. Thank you.
I'm sorry. Can you repeat the question, Asha?
Yeah, sure. Do SD-WAN and IBM have a future? IBM have a future? That's the question.
Absolutely. I mean, I think, again, the branches and the branch deployments are going to be there, right? Meaning, it is going to be a lot more. I mean, we're talking about people working out of cabins and whatnot, right? I mean, they are not, even if things are back to normal, they're not going to all come back to one place and work that easily, right? And which means that there's going to be branch offices set up, and again, for an environment, for a the cities are going to be a little bit more distributed. This is for non-traditional business, right, which was consolidated in one location. They're going to be spread out a lot more. But for traditional businesses like the banks and all those who have branches, the retail stores and whatnot, right, they will continue to have those the remote connectivity, and they will continue to use SD-WANs and all that, right? It's definitely going to be there.
Right. So I hope that answers your question. And okay, let's see if there are any more. Okay, standing by for more questions.
All right, we're waiting for your questions if you have any. Not, I guess.
Yeah, so I guess, okay, yeah, one has just popped up. So what about the compliance aspect? Has that changed?
I'll take that one. So compliance is actually, ironically, a topic that I like. God knows why. Maybe there's something wrong with me, or maybe just sitting in the room with too many auditors. I think compliance, if anything, is, the rules are still there, the laws are still there. I think that, we're all seeing what's going on with the privacy. Last year we had, I think, between Shield and California and all the other funds that came out. I think that's going to continue. I think we're going to need automation to help achieve the compliances. But I do think, given COVID and given what's going on, that we're going to get a few breaks from the auditors and the different organizations, kind of to understand what's going on and really understand that it's going to take longer, or there are some steps that we need to take that might not be in compliance to be able to achieve. I think for those of you who are familiar with the New York Act for Financial Organizations, the New York Department of Financial Services actually suspended that for COVID, or at least suspended the enforcement. I think that's the kind of stuff that we'll see because of COVID. However, when we get back, the hammer is going to come down. So I think being able to solve that with automation sooner rather than later will actually help us a lot.
Right. Thank you. Thanks for that, Alon. So we are running a little short of time. I think we'll have to wrap up. But yeah, there is one more question. Has there been any new security regulation drafted in the face of the pandemic? So if one of you could answer that quickly, it'll be great.
Yeah, I'm not aware of any new regulation just for the pandemic. But I guess there is definitely a heightened awareness in terms of security and heightened implementation of security standards that are already there or already been in place. So that's what I would say.
Okay. All right. So if there aren't any more questions, I think we can call it a wrap. Thank you. Thanks, Murli, Nitish, and Alon for this great session. And people who joined the session, I hope you found it insightful. And yeah, we hope to see you for our next sessions as well. Have a great day. Stay safe and stay healthy. Thank you.
Thank you, Nisha.
But thanks,
Thank you.
Nisha.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.